Okay, guys. So in this lesson, I want to introduce you to my simple launch method, what I call the SLM. So how does it fit into the program? Well, I want to just say, first of all, this is not a critical element to the program. This is not something that you must do in order to achieve everything you want to achieve, and that is to scale your business up and with an eye to transitioning out at some point in the future. This is something a little extra because you would know that so far in this area of the program on business performance, we have really focused in on ways that you can very quickly, very easily improve the performance of your business, top line revenue, implementing different effective and fast revenue generating initiatives, improving our bottom line with regards to the expenses running through the business, and effectively like looking for quick wins and ways to quickly make our numbers look as healthy as possible. So we've sort of steered away from laborious, time-consuming, resource-draining initiatives so far. So this is something different. This is for people that really want to launch and what they want to go big, and they want to also spend the time to launch new ideas, to get new experiences or new products or new services out there into the world, which of course take time and investment, but of course the rewards can be massive, to be able to implement new revenue streams, to find new customers, to be able to create new things and really catapult your business. So you may or may not choose to use this simple launch method as a way of really quickly growing a business and making it more valuable. So how does it fit into the program? Well, as I mentioned, obviously for you to be able to really successfully test an idea, launch an idea, and get it generating revenue, of course, is immensely beneficial. It's going to do wonders for the sales and the bookings, the revenue running through your business. It's going to make it more resilient, more diverse sort of revenue streams, and it's going to make it more valuable. And not only that, if you go through this simple launch method and you can take something from idea to launch, and it's something that you haven't given a lot of time, it started to get some traction, it started to generate sales. Well, when the time comes that you actually decide to transition out of your business, it's incredibly valuable because it can tie in beautifully with your vision for the future. So crystallizing that vision that you have for your business, because someone who is interested in your business, someone who wants to invest in your business, they're going to want to know how am I going to take this business to the next level? So even if you're soon to launch something, that is immensely valuable. If you can show someone the process that you've gone through to take an idea through the testing phase, the research phase, the ironing out of the creases, and you have something ready to go that is almost guaranteed to sell wildly, then that, of course, is going to be immensely valuable. And that's something that is going to increase the value of your business, even if it's not actually even generating revenue right now. So I hope that makes sense. So as I mentioned, developing and launching a new product is something that can be time consuming, and it can be really labor intensive as well. So for me, the best approach is to get it out there into the world responsibly by doing the requisite research and the requisite testing, but getting it out there into the world as quickly as possible. Because the best thing that you can do, I believe, is to let your ideal customer tell you what you need to do to make your idea, your new experience, your new product, your new service world-class. It is, I'm by nature a drive forward kind of a guy. I've always been that way. I have ideas. I want to implement them. I want to get them out into the world. I want to see how they stack up. I want to see what the response is, and I want to see them generating sales. That's just the way I work. I don't like to get bogged down in the research phase. I don't like to get bogged down in the development, in the testing. I just want to get it out there into the world as quickly as possible. And I believe the best, fastest path to success with a new idea, a new product, new service, a new experience is to get it out there into the world and let that first wave of people going through it tell you what it is that you need to do to make it world class. Because the biggest mistake that I see business owners make when they launch a new product or a new service, and I was very, very guilty of this in my early days as well, and it took me a while to figure this out. We all have ideas, okay? We all have these really great ideas for new tours. We think, wow, what a great idea. People are going to love this. So you piece it together, you develop it, you get all excited about it, then you launch it out there into the world, and it's crickets, or it's the response is underwhelming, or it just bombs, and you just can't understand why. What it's perfect. This is just such an amazing experience. Why aren't people getting excited about it and committing by pulling their credit card out? And here's the reason for that, because I believe what we think about a new idea, a new experience, product, service, whatever it is, it's kind of irrelevant if we're not our target market. People have fallen into this trap of thinking just because we think it's a great idea, then it's going to sell like hotcakes. It's going to sell wildly. Well, that's not the case, because unless we are our target market, our ideal customer, unless we fit our own customer avatar, what we think about it is kind of irrelevant. What we need to do is find out who it's for, who our ideal customer is, and find out what they think about it. It's not necessarily that important what we think about it. So that's the first mistake. So just a bit of background as to how this worked for me. Now, you would all know that I ran a business called Melbourne Private Tours. So I ran high-end, luxurious, immersive private tours. And by the time I sold my business in 2017, so like 10, 11 years after I started it, it had become the MPT Travel and Lifestyle Group. Like I'd created a travel corporation where I had a bunch of different types of divisions to the business under the umbrella of the MPT Travel and Lifestyle Group. So as I said, I had obviously my private touring division of the business, and then I had MPT Corporate Events, I had MPT Worldwide Journeys, and MPT Travel Representation. So my corporate event side of the business, I grew up really, really well. And by 2015, it was doing around 400,000 a year in annual revenue. MPT Worldwide Journeys was going beautifully. We were doing some really high-end, high-ticket, premium outbound experiences. And then we also had MPT Travel Representation. So that came about with people asking my company or me to represent their hotels and resorts and destinations in the Australian market. So that was all the stuff we were doing. And the reason I'm telling you this is that everything that I launched, every new idea, every new division of the business came about by putting it through this. I didn't know it at the time, but this simple launch method. I applied it to every idea that I had, and it was really, really successful. And everything I did worked. Even like MPT Travel Representation, which we actually wound down after 2 years. It was really lucrative. We had a whole bunch of great clients paying us monthly retainers, and it was generating really great revenue with scope to grow. But we actually, everyone in my business hated that side of the business. We didn't get any joy out of it. We effectively we were giving ourselves, a whole bunch of new bosses that we had to answer to, and it just didn't work for us. So we wound it down. But everything in under the MPT Travel and Lifestyle umbrella, I took from idea to launch by running it through this simple launch method. So I want to share it with you today. And I think by using this method, you'll be giving yourself the best possible chance of success to go from idea to launch and generating revenue as quickly as possible. So this is what it is, and then I'll sort of dive in a little deeper and talk about each particular step. So it's effectively 7 steps. The idea, then we've got the ideal customer, followed by the research phase. The next is the pre-launch run, followed by the MVP launch, or the minimum viable product launch. Then we've got the feedback stage, and lastly, the refinement. So that is what I now call the simple launch method. At the time, I didn't have a name for it. I didn't know it was a thing, but it's kind of cool to give something a name, and that's what I've done. But this is the process that I went through that I figured out worked really, really well to almost guarantee that ideas I had when I got them to the stage of launch, if they made it that far, sold like crazy. So I reckon you guys, by applying this same method, can go from idea to launch literally in a matter of weeks. Possibly not months, and definitely not years. So it's a really, really fast process if it's done right. And the idea is to get your new idea out into the world as quickly as possible if it's going to sell. And you'll know that before you get it out there into the world. So here we go, the idea. This is the first step. And look, we've all got them. We're all entrepreneurs, and we should all be proud of ourselves. We do what we do because we're ideas people. And every one of you who's listening to this lesson, I'm sure, is bubbling away with ideas for new products, for new services, for new experiences, for new tours, new activities, new markets to tackle. We've all got ideas, and we'd all love to bring them out into the world. But as I've said, the biggest problem that people have is that when they have an idea, they go straight ahead to the development and the launch phase, and it bombs because they don't realize that just the fact that they believe something to be a great idea, or that they run past a couple of their mates who say, yeah, that sounds great, that is nowhere near enough. And it's really, really important that we do due diligence on the idea, but it starts with an idea. So that part of it's simple, okay? So it's the process that we run that idea through, which is so important. So we're not going to spend too much time on step one, the idea, because we've got them all. Great sometimes to do a really great brainstorming activity, get them down on paper and see them sort of come to life. But the next part is very, very critical to the process. So it is so important that we dial in our ideal customer. And I was guilty of this, or not doing this, so often in my early days. And if someone had said to me after a couple of years in business, probably a year to 2 years in business, so, well, who's your ideal customer? Tell me about your customer avatar. I would have been scratching my head. Oh, I don't know. I guess, lots of different people. I guess maybe Americans or English speakers would have been very generic, very vague. And I learned that it was nowhere near enough. So it is critical if you're going to have, if you're going to experience massive success, then you really need to dial in your customer avatar. So how do you do this? You need to learn a lot of information about them. Now, what I'm going to do at this point, I'm going to point you to a lesson that I recorded a little while back for my 7-figure tour business program. It's called Creating a Customer Avatar. And it's going to be really, really valuable for you to get clear on this step. So I'm going to kick you over there in a second. It's about 20 minutes long, and there's an accompanying worksheet that's going to help you crystallize your ideal customer. And it's important for me to let you know that you might have more than one ideal customers, and that's totally fine. You might have, 3 or 4 customer avatars, ideal customers for this new experience. And there's a whole bunch of ways that you are going to do some research to find out as much information about your ideal customer, so much to the point that you're going to give them a name. You're going to select an image so you can visualize who your ideal customer is, who this experience is made for, or perfect for, and a lot of information. You'll be able to write a bit of a bio about your ideal customer. So you're going to see what I mean when you watch this lesson. So I'm going to send you over to that lesson now, and we'll come back to step 3.
Hey everyone, Josh here on the mic for this Module 3 lesson on the value of creating customer avatars in your business. You may also hear them referred to as buyer personas. So here's what we're going to cover in this lesson. We're going to take a look at what a customer avatar is, how creating one can actually transform your business as you know it, where you're going to get all the data that you need to create them, and what you actually do with the data once you've got it to turn it into a customer avatar. Okay, so what is a customer avatar? Well, let me tell you a little bit about my early years as a day tour operator. I believe I talked about this in an earlier lesson. I've talked about my early times, those first couple of years, about the challenges, about the wrong turns, about those roadblocks that I came across, and about how close I came to throwing in the towel after a couple of years. Anyway, one of the major reasons behind our lack of success in our early years was the fact that we just had no idea who our customer was, who our tours appealed to, who they resonated with. We had no intimate data or knowledge about our customer. You know, when we started our tour company, we of course knew that we needed to create some tours, so that's what we did. And, you know, we created some walking tours. We created some unique coastal adventures that incorporated some helicopter experiences or light aircraft. We created some unique and immersive wine experiences. We created some foodie type experiences where we, met the faces behind the places and had an opportunity to do something really hands-on and immersive there. And some really quality wildlife experiences. So why did we create these types of tours? How did we come to create these types of tours? Well, I guess because we thought they were awesome, because we thought they showcased everything that was great about our city of Melbourne and our state of Victoria. The things that we loved about our city and our state and the regions and destinations around them. And, I guess if we're honest, many of us or many of you guys out there have done the same. You've thought, hey, you know what I reckon is really cool about my city or my region or my hometown? Why don't I start a business showing people the stuff I love? Although, to be honest, however, one thing we luckily had the foresight to do when we started our business was to take a close look at the types of destinations and the types of experiences that our regional tourism associations, our state tourism organisation and Tourism Australia were promoting and advertising. We kind of used these to get some direction and to help shape the types of tours that we created. But anyway, if someone had said after a year in business to me, so who's your customer? Tell me about them. Tell me about your target market or your target markets. I would have said, I guess Americans, that's where most of our bookings seem to be coming from. That would have been about the depth of my knowledge and the depth of understanding of my customer. And I came to learn that was nowhere near enough. Anyway, when I decided that I needed help after my first 2 pretty mediocre and exhausting years in business, I booked a session with a business coach that had been recommended highly to me. And that was life-changing. That very first session gave me the biggest reality check of my life. And I had, I realized I had no idea about pretty much anything. And amongst many things in that session I learnt was the need to understand who my customer was intimately, not just, the demographics, where they're from, what age, all these kind of things, but intimate things about their beliefs, their needs, their wants, their lifestyle, their hobbies, interests, the pains and, the solutions that they were looking for and the challenges that they were finding when booking or planning their trips. One of the things that my business coach told me in that session on that first day, look, it could have been the first couple of sessions, I'm not 100% sure, but I've never forgotten it. And that was that you shouldn't just accept who it is that you find. You have to make a decision on who it is that you want to attract. He told me in that first session that it was massively important to clearly identify your ideal buyer, your ideal customer, so you can find out what motivates them to take action and to choose you. Because the reality is that we now live in a world where people often bypass salespeople and conduct their own online research to make these buying decisions, to plan their trips, their tours, their activities, their experiences. Therefore, it's up to you to work out how you're going to deliver the perfect experience, the perfect tour or activity that's going to deliver the pleasure they seek and solve the problems that they have and meet their needs. So a customer avatar uses real life data about your leads and about your customers to enable you to do this, to find out what motivates them to take action and to choose you. So how will creating customer avatars transform my business? Well, I can promise you that it'll transform your business. And if you haven't done this before, and if you've been basing a lot of your key decisions on assumptions for far too long, as I did, then doing this really is going to transform your business. And if you're saying, Josh, is this really necessary? It looks like a fairly time-consuming process, and I reckon I know who my ideal customer is and, pretty much everything I need to know about them, then I say to you, trust me, do it. By really taking the time to understand your ideal prospects and your existing customers, you'll be better able to capture their attention. You'll be better able to keep them engaged and ensure that your tours or activities are a raging success, that's creating an army of raving fans with the healthy profits to match. A customer avatar goes way, way beyond just marketing and sales. When you develop a deeper understanding of who your customers are, you learn about the burning problems that they have, what their pain points are, what their desires are, and how you can satisfy them. That means you can create experiences based specifically in minute detail on your avatar's requirements. Your customer service will improve as a result as your team learns how to adapt to the needs of specific customers. And this understanding of exactly how to meet the needs of your leads and customers at every touch point will permeate through your entire business. You'll know how your customer wants things to look, how they want things to sound, to be presented to them, the way they want to be wowed, and the way they want to be treated. This is what will create an army of raving fans rather than a bunch of people that are just having a nice time. And getting the pricing right and making sure you have the right distribution strategy in place will become much, much easier also. And the best bit of all is that creating clear customer avatars gives your team a company-wide sense of direction. So how do I create one? Well, guys, this is the way that I did it. Think of your customers, the customers you already have had, the most represented type of customer that your business has or has had. Plus, think of all those inquiries that didn't convert. You may be converting around 10 to 20% of leads. Well, what about all those leads that didn't convert? What kind of data do you have about them? What do they all have in common? Take a deep dive here and start doing some investigating and filling in the blanks as best that you can. Details such as age, income, gender, marital status, industry, job title, job description, plus values, beliefs, lifestyle, what kind of lifestyle they have, hobbies, interests, attitudes to various things. Here's an example for you in doing this, in collating this. So you might have someone that you have done the requisite research and you need peer approval. They run their own company and are semi-retired but find it hard to let go. Highly competitive and want to be unique. They want to look good in clothing. They're from a higher income bracket. They might view experiences as equally important as material things. So these are the kind of things that you might find your customers so far have in common, or a vast majority of them, or a vast proportion of them have in common. Plus, you would go on to media use. Where do they get their information? What favourite websites do they have? What books or news outlets or other programming do they find interesting, useful, and do they turn to for information? What about their goals, challenges, and pain points? What's their primary goal, and what keeps them up at night? Finally, if you have more than one ideal customer, if you find that going through the research phase, you are grouping this data into very, very distinct, very different groups, and you find that you have more than one ideal customer, you'll need to repeat the exercise to create multiple customer avatars. So where am I going to get this information to create my avatars? This is what people most seem to struggle with when creating their buyer persona or their customer avatar. Where do I actually turn to find all this information, this intimate information about my buyer, about my customer? It feels overwhelming and time consuming and too hard to do, frankly. I mean, that's the way I looked at it when I started this process. But you know what? You'll be surprised by how easy it is and how easy it can be to collate this type of data via customer surveys and other methods to create targeted client or customer groupings. While you may have a good idea already about your ideal customer, what they look like, your assumptions are just a starting point, quite frankly. There are several ways to conduct your research depending on whether or not you have existing customers. This kind of data is most likely readily available to you right now, or you can very easily capture it in a number of ways. Assuming that you have existing customers and an established business, a business with email and a website, which most of you have, you can use these resources and this data very, very effectively. So here's a number of ways I recommend collating data about your customers and leads to start creating your customer avatars. So you can interview both past customers and customers that have booked upcoming tours. You can interview leads that didn't convert, that you feel fit your ideal customer. I recommend that you be really transparent here, explain why and what you're trying to achieve. Like, I'm quite simply trying to make my business a better business, and if I could have a couple of minutes of your time to answer a few questions in order to help me create my customer avatar, I think that you're going to find that many people are quite willing to help, quite eager to help. So I recommend that you aim for at least 20 interviews in this phase. You can head over to social media platforms and do a bit of stalking on LinkedIn or Facebook or Instagram and look your leads and your customers up. You can ask your operations or your reservations team member, if you have them, what they know about the people who purchase your products or services. As those buyers are your proven customers. Specifically, question your colleagues about the most common queries they get, objections they hear, and how they respond to customer concerns. Sift through your reviews and record what it is that people like, love and dislike about your company and about your company's tours or activities. What can you be doing better? Look at your website analytics, look at your Google analytics, and look at your social media platform analytics. What are people looking at and where are they coming from? If you have them, also take a good look at your email analytics. What kind of communication or offers worked really well, and which ones tanked? If you use Facebook advertising, if you haven't in the past, you may also have installed a custom audience pixel on your site. And if you don't, it's a great way to gather information about the people that visit your website, which will include, of course, prospects as well as customers. So if you're not familiar with it, then look it up, Custom Audience Pixel. Use Google's Search Console to get insight into the questions and the challenges and problems your audience wants to solve. It tells you what keywords and what phrases people searched for that brought them to a particular page or a post on your website. And finally, look at your direct competitors' social media pages for insights on who is taking their tours. Note people who review, people who comment, people who engage the most, and then go and check out their social media profiles, their social media presence for more information about the activities they enjoy, the education that they have, their marital status, and all those other categories we talked about earlier. So look at your competitors, look at the people that are engaging with them on social media, and then go and have a look at those people. You're gonna find some really, really fascinating data, I assure you. Okay, so now I've collected all this data. What do I do with it? So what you need to do now is group together all the common information you've collated and create a single representation of your ideal customer with as much specific details as you can. Now, you may find that you're creating more than one, as I mentioned earlier, more than one customer avatar, as you've been able to group information into more than one ideal client, very distinct but ideal client for your tours or activities. For example, without going into intimate detail right here regarding their avatar, our Great Ocean Road Drive Fly Tour, we found over years, was hugely popular, equally as popular with 55 to 70-year-old American empty nesters, along with young Italian honeymoon couples and Singaporean family groups. They really, really resonated. That tour resonated beautifully with those three very distinct types of customers. So this single representation of your ideal customer is what you can call your customer avatar. So the next thing you need to do is give your customer or give your customers a name, and then get to work filling in as much information as you can to build out this representation. So when I did mine, the name that I came up with and the image that I chose, which is really, really important, it helps solidify it in your mind, was Bob and Mary. So Bob's 63 and Mary's 60, have been married for 32 years. I've used here just a bit of an example, a small snapshot of my own personal custom avatar. So they've been married 32 years and live in Southern California. They've got 2 kids who've recently graduated from college, one 26 and one 28. Bob's the founder of a mid-sized law firm and is now semi-retired. Mary volunteers a couple of times a week and sits on the board at their country club. They're very well travelled and they generally do around 3 to 4 trips a year of around 3 weeks in duration, some on which their kids are invited, some they're not. They generally do private tours if private tours are available, and all their travel planning is done by a trusted travel designer with whom they've been booking trips for 20 years. So they choose destinations by, I've just given a few other small details here that I filled into my customer avatar. So Bob and Mary enjoy. They get their information from their social media activity is Bob and Mary like to shop online or at certain shops. The biggest challenge they face when planning a trip. So all of these things went into the creation of my customer avatar also. So this gives you a bit of an idea as to what you're trying to achieve when creating one. So guys, a bit of a rookie mistake that I want to draw your attention to. It's very, very handy to understand what kind of people buy from you, but it's critical to focus less on who your customers are and focus more on why they buy from you. This will help you identify how exactly you can solve their problems. So, ladies and gentlemen, action steps for this lesson. Get to work collecting and recording information about your ideal customer or your ideal customers using the tips that I've outlined in this lesson. Use this information, once you've done that, to build a single representation of your ideal customer. And as I've said, there could possibly be more than one ideal customer. To do this, over in the resources section, you're going to find a worksheet entitled Creating a Customer Avatar, where you're going to be able to essentially fill in the blanks. And once you've filled in those blanks, you'll actually be able to create your own personal ideal customer avatar.
Okay, so now we're really, really clear on who our ideal customer is or who our ideal customers are, because there could be more than one group of ideal customers. So at this point, you want to really resist the urge to jump straight ahead to getting it out there into the world, okay, and to launching. What you want to do then is spend some time in the research phase. Now, I don't like to get bogged down. Some people love the research phase and they want to spend weeks and months and just to be absolutely crystal clear, 110% certain that what they've got in mind is going to be perfect. And I would resist the urge to do that. It doesn't come naturally. It's not in my nature to do that. And what I would say to all of you guys is respect the research phase. Do it first and foremost, but do it to your bandwidth. Okay, so there's no point spending, months bogged down in the research phase. Just do it to your bandwidth, to the capabilities that you have, because there's a lot of stuff going on in your world and in your business. So you can't get bogged down here for too long, and then move ahead. Okay, so you want to speak to a whole bunch of your ideal customers and ask them a series of questions so that you obviously know who it's for, but what does it need to look like? What specifically does your ideal customer want your new product, service to look like? What kind of problems are they looking to have solved? What kind of desires are they looking to have satiated? Okay. How exactly do they want it to look? So that's what you need to do in the research phase. So what I'm going to do here is point you over to a short training that I created a few months ago for my a program called my local market recovery training, and it goes right into the process of identifying, first of all, your ideal customer, which we've done, and then asking them a whole series of questions that are going to give you some telling information about exactly what your product, service, experience, tour, activity, whatever it is, needs to look like if it's going to hit the mark and have immediate success. And following on from that, what you then do with that data, how you collate that data, how you identify common themes and patterns in the data that allow you to move forward really quickly. So let's go over there and have a look at that lesson. It's about a 15-minute lesson, and then we'll come back and we'll dive into step 4 in the simple launch method.
A lot of people tend to skip over this proof of concept stage because it's time consuming. It's, it can be a little overwhelming, and many just go with a hunch. They think they know, and they get straight to the development stage. And as you're going to find out in this section, that's a big mistake. So as I say, take the time. I would time block. That's the way I used to do it. And what I mean by that is I would set aside a chunk of time to dedicate to a task. And guys, this really is the difference between success and failure. So I really implore you to take this seriously, do this properly. And by time blocking, I'm talking about literally blocking out a period of time in a day. So as I said here, I recommend, if you can, 3 to 4 hours per day. And that means that you shut out the world, you switch your phone off, you set an alarm, the alarm goes off, you start working on a task, all of your browsers are shut down, there's no emails coming in, nothing, and you are completely dedicated, uninterrupted to this task until that alarm goes off again, and you see what you can achieve in that 3 to 4 hours. It might be 1 to 2 hours, whatever it is. You'll be absolutely staggered by what you can achieve in a short period of time. So how do you find out what kind of questions would you be asking? How would you approach this research phase? Let's use bachelorette parties as an example. As I said, hens parties that we call them down here in Australia. So the kind of questions for all you ladies out there, how many of you have around 50 people in your networks who got married in the last, let's say, 5 years or maybe 10 years? How many had a friend organize a bachelorette or a hens party? So it's going to be pretty easy for you to chat with, let's say, 20 or maybe 30, maybe 40 people and ask them a few questions. And here's a few ideas of the types of questions that I would ask. I mean, like, as I've said, I'm going about this from my own personal experience, the way that I would have approached it, and the way I approached it I had a lot of success with. So these are the kind of questions that I would ask. What did you do for your bachelorette party? How long did it run for? Pre-event, just between you and me, what was your single greatest desire for the event? Because, it could be quite a selfish reason, and if you don't really dig deep, it might be something generic, just for everyone to have a good time, but there might have been a really great desire, for the event that you might have someone, be able to share with you. For the organizer, what do you think was the major challenge or frustration? Maybe other questions like these. How many people attended? What did it cost per person? You could say, was there any objection to cost? Why did you choose that activity, or why did you choose that venue? Why did you choose that style of event? What did you love about it? And if you could change something, what would you change? Or, if you could have it over, what would be that one thing that you would change? Once I've spoken with 20, 30, 40, 50, 100 people, what do you do with all this information? What do you do with this data? And the answer to that is to stick it into a spreadsheet, a Google sheet or an Excel spreadsheet. And I just wanted to show you an example of mine here. This is a workbook, an Excel spreadsheet that we created just recently to collate all the data we received back from a survey we sent out. And it was all about serving the local market. You probably received it yourself. The challenges, the frustrations that would come from pivoting to serve the local market where you've traditionally served into the international market. So the survey was really short. From memory, the question was something along the lines of, in this COVID time, are you considering pivoting to serve the local market, or the domestic market, interstate, intrastate? And if so, what is the single biggest challenge or frustration, or something along those lines, that you face when doing that? And we sent that out, as you can see down here. You obviously would be familiar with Kelsey Toner, the Be a Better Guide project. So there you can see there Kelsey's responses. I think he had around, from that survey, around 60 odd, sorry, that was mine, Sunshine Tribe, 60 odd responses for that survey. And I think Kelsey had about 70, so that's great. So between, it's about 130 responses, a good result. And we simply dropped the answers into this spreadsheet so we could go down and we could take a look at exactly what people were saying and at the language that they were actually using. So really interesting way, and we simply just dropped it all into this spreadsheet that we could look at quite easily. And then what we did is pull some common themes together. So of all of those answers, these were the really common themes, and we just made some headings for those. So local attitude to tours and activities, lead gen, we're talking the biggest challenges or pains or frustrations, product creation, lead generation and marketing strategies, pricing and profitability, choosing a segment, health and safety issues. And we could see how many people really found these challenging, found these to be real pain points of theirs. And again, for mine, they were very, very similar. Tours, local attitudes to tours and activities, marketing, lead generation. So you can see it all there. And that literally helped me create this workshop because I knew exactly what was important to people, exactly what people would want to see in that workshop. So really simply pulling it into a workbook, an Excel spreadsheet, a Google Sheet, and then just grouping those common themes to see what sort of trends you're seeing within those answers. Now, after going about the process in the way that I've recommended above, if you're still not getting the depth and the volume of insights that you're hoping for, that's fine. I'd then go about it in a different way. And I would start looking for fishing holes is the way I describe them. And by fishing holes, I'm talking about places that people congregate in the real world and online. Obviously online is where it's at the moment. The groups that people are congregating in online, and the places that I would look first would be LinkedIn groups and Facebook groups. By way of example, let's say you run a foodie tour, or let's say you run a coffee lovers experience, a coffee walk where you meet baristas, or coffee might just be one core component of a foodie tour that you run, or a laneways and arcades tour, whatever it is, where you've got some cafes, coffee, baristas, roasting as a really core component of the experience that you run. Well, a really simple look, this took me all of about 3 seconds, a simple search of groups where you'll find people within your niche or niche that have a real passion for the type of experience that you're offering. So have a look here at some of these groups. Coffee lovers, there 21,000 members. Coffee, 108,000 members. Obviously, I'm not sure where all of these are, but you could be more specific to your destination. The World of Coffee, 18,000. The World of Coffee down there, 200,000 members of a group that all they want to do is talk and share all things coffee. So that is a really, really great fishing hole. And what you'd want to do is get involved, immerse yourself in the group. So start reading threads, start asking questions. Hey guys, I'm currently creating a new coffee experience X, Y, or Z, and I'm curious if you guys have ever blah blah blah. So people are going to be really responsive, and if you're just open and honest, hey, I'm just creating this thing and I'd love to ask you a few questions, hoping you can help me, you will find, and from my experience, that people really, really want to jump in. They want to talk about their passion, they want to help, they want to give advice, suggestions, feedback, tips. So that's one thing. And then you would also start sharing your wisdom, your expertise, and start positioning yourself as an authority. Start positioning yourself as the go-to person on this subject or topic or niche or specific interest. And you'll hopefully be able to find groups of people that are in your local area or within your state or within your country that could be potential leads, potential customers. And you can start asking them the same types of questions that you've asked in the outreach process that I've already outlined in this workshop.
Okay, so now we know our ideal customer. Beautiful. We've asked them a series of research questions. We've spoken to a decent pool of people that fit the bill as ideal customers. And we are super clear on what it is specifically that they want your new product or service to look like, what sort of features, what problems they want it to solve, what desires they want it to satiate. We're super clear on that. The next step is not to go ahead and launch. The next step is to run a few people through it. Okay, so we want to pick and invite a bunch of people of our ideal customers that fit our customer avatar to experience our product or our service. Okay, so if it's a product, it could simply mean sending it to them. If it's a service, if it's an experience, if you're in the tourism industry, it would mean getting them to actually come and experience firsthand what it is that you've created for them. So again, I've got a really short training. It's about 7 to 8 minutes long. That's going to show you exactly what you need to do to get people to come along to experience it, if they need to come in person to check out your new service. Obviously, the same principles apply if you're launching a product, but because the next part of it is incredibly telling, is the actual feedback element of it. Okay, how you can be sure that you're going to get the requisite feedback you need to implement all of the wonderful ideas, thoughts, the wonderful information that you're going to get back. So I'm going to point you over to that short lesson now, and we'll come back here to dive into stage 5.
So once you're done with your research, you've collated, you've analyzed the data, you've tweaked or adapted or maybe even rebuilt your experiences based on your chosen segments, pains and frustrations and desires, etc., all those things that we've talked about. It's the next step to create a really well thought out familiarization trip so you can get some really great feedback and elevate your experience and make sure you're giving people what they really, really want, what they really, really desire, and it's solving all those pains and problems that we've talked about. So I would recommend a fam trip as a really great way to gather that feedback. So for a successful and productive fam trip, familiarization trip, I would recommend that you aim to invite a broad range of people, your target customers, the people within that market segment. I would also recommend you try to invite relevant representatives from tourism associations. It might be your regional tourism associations in the areas in which you're actually running the tours, or it could be your state organization, possibly even your national, for us, Tourism Australia, but as many as possible, and ideally people in roles like product development, people from the familiarizations unit, you might call it, or familiarizations team. Most of these tourism organizations would have people in those roles, people with a role maybe like a domestic market coordinator, something like that. So they're the kind of people, and just asking them as well, who would you think would be really, really important to have on this this familiarization trip? And the next, ideally, some distribution partners. So these might be a few hotel concierges, or it might be that you're inviting a product manager or some of the reservations team for a local DMC, destination management company, or an ITO, an inbound tour operator. It might be a really important or valued travel agent, whoever you think would be a valuable distribution partner to get on that trip to, that knows that market segment and can offer some really great insight and feedback. So how would you actually get people to attend? Well, first of all, I'd say pull together your target list of those above 3. Get a bit of a list together, a bit of a wish list as who you might want on that famil. And in your first approach, I recommend you make it sound really fun, like as awesome as possible, and less like a research exercise, less like a job. Keep it light, keep it fun, keep it, focus on the fact that it's going to be really short. You're going to make it as convenient as possible, and people are going to have a lot of fun on it. So they would think, yeah, that sounds like a great way to, spend a couple of hours of my afternoon, or possibly an hour or two of my evening, whatever it is. So obviously you need to make it really convenient, really mindful of people's, work habits, so you can guarantee maximum attendance. And I wouldn't mention, the required feedback at this stage. You just want to give people every motivation to come along. So you might say something on the lines of, I'm working on a really great new experience or activity or tour, something like that. I'd love to have you along because, and this is the place you can make people feel good about themselves. If you make people feel good about themselves, then they're more inclined to do something for you. Your opinion is really valued. You've got a great reputation in the industry for X, Y, and Z. I know that your insights would be really, really valuable to me. So a little bit of ego stroking is going to bring down another one of those barriers, remove another obstacle, and get those people to be really receptive to coming along. So you can also say, I'd be more than happy to work around your schedule as best as possible. Again, removing every possible obstacle for them actually being able to attend. So at this stage, I'm loosely thinking of running the event at either A, B, or C time on X, Y, or Z day. How do these times work for you? Let me know. If not, and I'll be happy to work something out that suits you better. So by doing this, you're really working out if they actually are interested, because if you're saying those things, that you're not giving them an opportunity to say, look, no, I can't make it at that time, or that's not going to work for me. You're, again, removing an obstacle, and you're really going to know if they're interested, because you're not leaving them with an opportunity to give an excuse, like, no, I can't make it. Then it's really like, if they're not coming, it's because they're just not interested. So I definitely recommend getting people committed before you start going into a bit more detail about what you need from them, and a more detail about, firming up the schedule for the experience. So remember, if you want to get people to come along, flexibility and ease are massive to ensuring a really strong attendance, because you're going to expect dropouts. Even if people really do want to come along, you're going to get last minute dropouts, I guarantee it. So you might even want to consider overbooking this FMIL with the expectation that there's going to be a percentage of people that will actually drop out. So then when you've got people committed, then you want to be really clear up front before they come along as to what your objectives are and what you expect of them. So by email, so it's there in writing, I'd suggest things like, there's going to be X number of questions. It should take you around X number of minutes to complete them. I'd love it if you could get these feedback questions back to me by X or Y date. And if it's okay, I may follow up with a super quick phone call if I need to clarify anything. So there's absolutely no gray area. You need them to do these things and provide this, feedback for you by this particular date or time. And also, you want to be really clear that you want feedback from every person who comes along, not just feedback from the group leader on behalf of the greater group. So you'll often have, let's say with a tourism organisation or with a distribution partner, they might say, yeah, we've got 4 or 5 people in the office who could come along. And you say, well, that's fantastic. And you might have the product manager that has, a few of the reservations team that come along, and the product manager will provide feedback on their behalf. That's a bad idea. You're going to get so many more insights by getting feedback from every person that comes along, and different sort of views, perspectives, and insights on things. So make sure that everyone knows that everyone needs to give feedback on the FMIL. You might only need to run one. You might find you need to run a couple or 2 or 3 of them to get maximum attendance. But by doing this, so those couple of really key things. One is to get people really excited about it, make them feel good about themselves. You really want them along because they're so valuable. Their insights are so valuable. They're so well thought of in the industry. Those kind of little ego strokes are going to make sure people are more inclined to come along and help you out. And once you've got the commitment, then start getting really clear as to what you need from them, giving them some really detailed requests for feedback from every person in the group.
Okay, so once we have run some people through, we've done that pre-launch run, you might call it a familiarization or a test run, we then move to the MVP launch, the minimum viable product launch. And effectively what this is you want to prove beyond doubt in the easiest, fastest, most affordable way that people are going to pay for what you are creating. Okay, so there's a massive difference between someone saying, wow, yeah, that's a great idea, I'd love to do that, and someone actually pulling their credit card out and saying, here, take a deposit. So the way to do this is through a minimum viable product launch, an MVP launch. And this is going to differ dramatically depending on what kind of industry or niche that you run your business in. So what it could be is something so simple as, like a booking form. So if you have taken your experience or product or service to the point of launch, and you would then go to people with a booking form and say, look, here is a place that you can express interest. I'm taking deposit. I'm launching this experience in 3 weeks or 4 weeks. So now's the time you can actually commit to it. And I'm going to take a deposit from you. Your incentive for doing that is X, Y, or Z. So it might be a discount for a foundation member, whatever it is. But whatever you can do to get people to actually commit by pulling out a credit card and paying a deposit. Now, for me, as an example, let's say I'm running an online business. and I'm launching a new type of course or coaching program, an online program, whatever it is, and I'm getting it out there in the world, into the world. I've done my testing, I've got my feedback, I've done my surveys, and I know that what I'm doing is solving a real problem and that I believe people will pay for it. Well, I'm not going to go ahead and build the entire program and then just hope that people actually say what they say they're going to do, which is pull the credit card out and buy it. What I'm going to do is say, look, I'm launching the course in a month from now. So now's a time that you can get in. I'm going to offer a really significant incentive for you to get in now. If you join now, we're launching in a month or in 6 weeks. If you pay in full now, I'm going to offer this to you at a discount of X, Y, and Z. So if you do that and you get people and you have a lofty goal that you want to get 30 or 40 people enrolled in the program and you get them, you're like, wow, yes, okay, this is definitely something that has legs, because people are actually talking with their wallet. You know, they're saying, yes, I'm going to pay for it. But if you hope to get, 30 or 40 people enrolled, and in your testing, you've had a lot of people through it have said, yeah, it's great, I can't wait, tell us when you launch, it's awesome. And when it comes to the crunch, you say, well, now's the time to pull your credit card out and commit with a deposit. We're launching in 6 weeks. And you get 1 or maybe 2. Well, that's absolutely fine. I mean, it's obviously, it's a little disappointing, but you would just then go back to those people and say, look, here's your refund for your payment or for your deposit. To be honest, it didn't get the traction that we felt it would. So for us, it's back to the drawing board to really polish it and refine it and make sure it's exactly what people want. So you quite simply would just refund and go back to the drawing board. Same goes for that new tour. You would get people with that new corporate experience. You get people to commit. You say you're launching at a certain point in the future. And if you just can't get anyone to sign up, or you get 1 or maybe 2, well, that's fine. You simply refund them rather than go out there and do all the laborious, time-consuming product development, you fine-tuning and get it all, buy the equipment or whatever it is. You simply test it with people who are willing to pay a deposit for something you're going to launch in the future. And if you don't get people that are paying, that's fine. You just simply refund them. So that is the mindset of the minimum viable product launch. What you want to do is just get people to commit to something by paying a deposit or paying in full for an incentive to do that for something that you will then go and create and go and build. Okay. So that's the next step. Step 6 is this: assuming that you do get a lot of people that commit by paying that deposit, by talking with their money, and you're like, okay, awesome, this is fantastic. So now I'm going to go ahead and build it. So you've got people that are financing the construction of the experience, the product, the service, the online course, whatever it is, which is amazing. Okay, so you're taking money, it's funding the development of the product. So then when you launch, people are going to take that experience and they're going to really take it for a test run. Now, this is the most important aspect of it, because what people do in this point is that they kind of just shut out the world and they go into their shell. They're fearful. They're worried that people aren't going to like it. Oh my God, I can't even bear to think what people are going to say about it. I don't want to know. It affects them on a really deep level if people don't like what they've got, what they've created. You've got to get thick skin, because this is the most telling part. You want to get paying customers through, and it's that first wave of feedback that's going to be so important. So everyone that you run through it, you need to do some deep dive customer research with them. What did you love about it? What didn't quite hit the mark? What would you like to see done differently? What would elevate it to world-class status? What did you freaking hate about it? You need this feedback. You need everyone that is actually paid to sample your product, service, experience, to get their feedback and find out from them what they really thought about it. Because paying customers will give you very, very different insights to that pre-launch customer that's coming along for free and giving you some constructive feedback. Okay, people who are going to pay, they're going to be more honest and more brutal with their feedback, and more glowing with praise as well. Okay, so that is the most important aspect of it in my view. That is why you get it to market so quickly, because the best possible feedback for me is the feedback of people that have paid for the experience. Okay, so that is where you're going to get the most telling stuff, and that leads you to the last step, which is the refinement. So at this point, you hopefully got a really, really great product or service. You've got some people that have paid for it. A lot of them have been really happy with it, but you've also got a lot of feedback. Yeah, it was great, but God, it would have been amazing if this happened, or that didn't quite work. I wasn't quite sure about that, or whatever it is. You take all that feedback, you digest it. If it's sizable enough, you punch it back into that spreadsheet, that Google Doc, and then you look for those common themes and you categorize those and you look for those trends. Okay. And then you implement all of the stuff that your paying customers have told you. You refine it. And by that point, you have got a world-class product that you have launched. So I hope that all makes sense. And I hope that's going to be really easy for all of you to implement.